We spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about gear, protection against the physical, whether it be bodies or pucks. But no amount of gear can guard against heartbreak. The hockey world is mourning the loss of Columbus Blue Jackets netminder Matiss Kivlenieks, passing away after a fireworks accident on July 4th. This episode of In Goal Radio was recorded prior to the tragedy. Kivlenieks was a Latvian who lived the dream of hosting a world championship recently after winning his first game in the National Hockey League last year at Madison Square Garden. He was phenomenal that night. It is a journey that is over far too soon, but we at In Goal would like to dedicate this episode to the 24-year-old, Matiss Kivlenieks. We are into July. It's In Goal Radio, the podcast. Welcome to episode 127. I'm starting to track the episodes by number. There was the longest stretch where I didn't know whether it was episode 30 or episode 92, and now I just can't get it out of my mind that we're approaching that 130 mark. Darren Millard, along with the co-founders of In Goal Magazine, Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. So glad that you're along with us. We have an incredible conversation today about something that I could see becoming more normal as we go on in this evolution of the cap era and making your resources go as far as they can. And especially after the experience of the three goaltenders in and around the parent club of the National Hockey League during the COVID season. Could that work and give you more flexibility throughout your organization? Brad Thiessen is going to stop by, and what an eventful career he has had, and now at the formation of this idea of a player coach. So we're going to deal with his interesting startup in the world of goaltending, and then into this transition to a player coach. To me, I would find it difficult. Brad does a great job explaining the balance that he went through being a player and a coach and trying to fit into one side or the other, because it's difficult to do both. Trust me, I try to be Woody's friend, but really behind the scenes, I'm Hutch's bestie. And it's hard to walk that line and still make Woody feel like he's the most important person on the program. As we say hello to the gentleman. Hey, best buddy Woody, how are you doing?
Little Reg Dunlop on the show today, hey? Reg Dunlop,
also, by the way,
in goalie pads.
We're going to stop by my other best friend in the world with Cam at the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Sticks are the topic of the day, the Warrior Ritual V2 twig. And that allows for some savings across the board. And looking forward to chatting about backup sticks or warm-up sticks, if you will. And there's a real debate right now whether Woody got an actual plug and letter of support from Cam or whether Cam was mocking Woody. And I'm curious to see what the listener has to say, Woody.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to mock me like you guys do on a weekly basis. But listen, across the board and across the border, the savings right now at thehockeyshop.com with the release of the new Warrior Ritual V2 stick that we'll talk about in the gear segment means 30% off the Warrior Ritual V1. And that's the stick that you've been seeing so much in the National Hockey League over the past couple of seasons, including Stanley Cup finalist Carey Price. So the chance to save 30% off that, and if you're an American client, I believe that one ships across the border, so you get the extra discount on the exchange. They're practically giving them away. And because Cam is such a massive Warrior guy, and to his credit, in this case, he saw the trend coming with the Warrior V1 stick and ordered big. Ordered so much that he has a lot left. 30% off, plus if you're American, get the savings with your dollar being worth more. Like, massive savings on the Warrior V1. So make sure you check out thehockeyshop.com, click on the sticks, click on the Warrior. You'll see all the new lines that we're going to talk about today. You'll see last year's M model series, which not yet on sale, but that V1, that's the one that's on sale big time right now. Lots of curves, lots of paddle lengths, lots of options at the Hockey Shop. If you're blessed to be in person, get there quick because they're going to go quick. Or if you're checking it out from a distance online, Get your order in quickly while stock remains on that Warrior Ritual V1. Or if you want the update, different kick point, so a few different modifications at different points of the line, make sure you listen to the segment this week to find out which one is right for you, including a potential warm-up stick.
Hutch, get the pen out of your mouth and answer a couple of questions for me.
Yes, sir.
I want you to pick the stick for me. What's the paddle length that I should go for? As short as possible?
Yes.
Because yes? Okay.
Yes.
So what?
Is that a good answer?
What's that?
Woody know?
What paddle length should I go for?
I think you should experiment as far down as 25, which we saw Kerry experimenting with a little over a year ago. He didn't actually pin down to 25. I think he was more comfortable around 26. But since you are so Kerry Price-like, I think you might want to experiment in the same place that he was experimenting. Look, I think we've talked about this a little bit on here before, but the trend seems to be with the people that we work with to go into smaller and smaller paddles. The reasoning being that we make most of our saves on our knees. I haven't seen too many stick saves standing up since we had Kelly Rudy on the podcast. And therefore actually sizing your paddle so that you are closing holes while you're down in the butterfly is much more important than having that pretty stance that everybody seems to want to have. Because if you have a perfect stance standing with no holes, as soon as you go down, that stick is going to force those arms out a little bit and open some things up. But I can see that your other best friend is really excited right now and wants to chime in about his 23-inch paddle.
Oh no, he's bringing in a plane at the at gate 34 in Terminal C. He's waving his hands around. He's got the flares up.
Let me talk. It's been like a minute.
Yeah. A note before Darren goes online.
One note.
Orders his Warrior V1 on sale.
Warrior paddles are sized differently.
Exactly. So I was going to say, Hutch had it right on, and we talk about it with Cam, and make sure you check with Cam to get the lengths right. Warrior paddles do tend to size down. So Darren, we were talking about Kerry. The year we saw him experimenting, he was still in a CCM. That CCM 25-inch would be at least a 26 in the Warrior model. So make sure you check with Cam to get the right sizing options and have a complete understanding, whether through their website or through them in person. Because the last thing we want you to do is order that 25, comparing it to a Bauer or a CCM or another brand, get it and find that it's that much shorter.
Do you guys explain why Warrior is sized differently than a Bauer or CCM?
Could somebody explain to me how you even measure paddle length? Because that one I actually don't know. I'd like Cam to do that for us one week. Because the heel is completely curved. So where do you start and stop your measurement? Somebody help me.
That's where you get discrepancy in terms of how it's measured, because you're measuring to where the paddle starts to cut in on the backside at the handle down to that point on the heel. And if you look at the illustrations in the old NHL books, it's like an old wood stick, and it's literally square, and it has like a sharp edge in the corner. So the measurement is quite simple. Like,
you need the stick with a ruler.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that simple anymore. So it's a good question, Hutch. And I think that's where some of the discrepancy comes in from brand to brand, depending on where they start that measurement.
So I want to go out there and I want to fire the puck as I skate on the ice like Carey Price does in warm-up. What kick point do I want, Hutch? Give me an idea. You're my goalie stick guru.
Am I really? You got the wrong guy in this family on to answer that. I actually think I honestly think it's a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, but I'm completely waffling on here. I know I live with a goaltender who really prefers a particular kick point and a particular flex, but I'm just happy if the puck ends up on the right colored jersey stick.
Good point.
But Woody, are we talking like graphite shafts and steel shafts here for the golfers, or what's going on?
Well, actually, the golf analogy is interesting. I don't know if we're going to get quite into that level of customization ever in golf. And, you know, I'm a guy who ever in goaltending, I'm a guy from a golf standpoint that I won't buy clubs without getting fit because I want them to be the right ones, and all those things matter. For me, my personal preference, I think it's how you shoot the puck and how well you shoot the puck. Like, I'm not a great puck handler. So a stick with a lot of flex, I like the E-Flex. I was a big fan of the E-Flex 4. It had a lot of bow to it. You could sort of lean on it without a lot of pressure, and it would give you that little bit of a, not quite Brett Hull dropping a knee for the 1T, but that type of whip. But if you're like a guy who puts a lot of force in it and handles it really well, you might prefer, like, you don't need that help. You might prefer a little more precision. Again, I know this on a, just being comfortable with the CCM models, the Axis stick is significantly stiffer through the paddle than the E-Flex stick. So I do think it's personal preference, Darren. What I like is that all these companies are getting to a point where you can choose one based on your preference versus just having one generic, model that behaves the same way and has different paint on it from year to year. I like the fact we're getting options.
And that Warrior stick is beautiful. I love it. It looks fantastic. We'll get back into the sticks during our gear segment with Cam over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. Check them out for all the latest and greatest equipment releases during this time that we're focusing on so much of the releases by the different manufacturers, but also the deals that come as a result of that, of the new models coming out. But some news to talk about. And gentlemen, I know you join me in with the season coming to an end, congratulating
the Tampa Bay Lightning 2021 Stanley Cup champions, Conn Smythe Trophy winner Andrei Vasilevsky, goaltender Curtis McElhenney, and goaltending coach France Jean.
Yes, we did that. We allowed Siri to step in and announce it because, quite frankly, we're recording this because as the Stanley Cup Final is occurring, and while the Tampa Bay Lightning have a commanding lead, we weren't comfortable enough to make the announcement on our own and do two different versions just in case the Canadians came back. For fear of just some kind of technical malfunction and having the wrong thing. So, Siri, congratulations for stepping in and making your debut.
Thank you, Darren. But remember, I have had to save Cam a few times.
Well, it actually wasn't a debut, but Siri helped us out again. Siri made an appearance earlier, but we really certainly do appreciate Siri for helping us out on this one. Woody is over in Tofino right now, enjoying some of the surf, and I'm on my way to Tokyo. So that's why we had to adjust a little bit. So Hutch, thanks for finding a solution to make this work.
It's my pleasure. How's the surfing this week, Woody?
I'll tell you next podcast.
Yeah. No, like you're surfing right now. That's what he's.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome. Thankfully here in Tofino,
you've had a whole week of surfing. Are you sore?
I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm ready to come home and relax in the hot tub. I am happy to report that there were no great white sharks in Tofino. Thanks to Darren for sending the news story of the great white attacking the surfer in San Francisco. Glad to hear he's okay. As I was basically getting ready to leave, I was really happy to. Nothing like heading out for a surf trip and having somebody send you great white attack surfer stories. Those really melt the heart. So thanks, Darren. Thankfully, the killer whales don't come into the shore, and there are no big sharks in Tofino.
The best part about the killer whales is they at least they breathe, so you can see them somewhat coming up. Those sharkies, they don't need air. And I sent you the great white attack in San Francisco because the shark just took one bite and let go. So, and maybe
that's typically what they do. The problem is one bite's often enough,
right? Well, I was thinking maybe the shark could give you a little bit of a massage, maybe take a bite out of that left shoulder that's bothering you so much.
Little therapy on the shoulder. Maybe give me a haircut while I'm at it.
You guys can foam roll together.
If it bites you anywhere near your head, that shark will cough and gag and spit that rug right out. That might be your best offense.
First shark to have a hairball.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Be like a cat.
And in the subject of the Stanley Cup final, like what a great performance! One of the best goaltenders in the world coming up big and winning a championship. Just a splendid performance on the back end out of the crease in this what was a series with a great goaltending matchup.
Yes, that goaltender did a great job.
Yes. See, Hutch was looking at me like, I'm not even going to jump into this.
I don't know where to go. Yeah.
We actually had the conversation this week on the radio show that I do locally in Las Vegas about how it's kind of transitioned. We love Carey Price, but if you were going to play one game and pick one goaltender, we always used to love this during the Patrick Waugh era, the Marty Brodeur, going through that run of incredible goaltenders where there was a conversation. Do you take Waugh? Do you take Brodeur? Do you take Hasek? Do you take some of these guys that were right there? It's pretty clear that Andrei Vasilevsky would be that guy.
What round? What round? Are they rested? And what round of the playoffs is that game?
It's one game, anytime. Game 7, Olympic final, whatever it is.
Just pointing out, the change in Carey's performance over the 4 rounds, unfortunately.
Yeah. Good point.
Hey, listen, give me a month off. Yeah, give Carey a month off, and I might. It's funny because I've had this conversation with a lot of goalie coaches, and up until the final, a lot of them were back on. These are NHL goalie coaches back on the Carey best in the world thing. Like, so when rested, he still has that ability to be that guy. And then again, we talked about it last week about what this next season's going to look like. I think actually, Brad Thiessen's a great example. Like the need to sort of have somebody that can step into the crease and give other guys time off could be a big part of this upcoming season for guys like Carey. But you know what, Vasilevsky, I thought Marc-Andre Fleury, to go back to last week's rightful Vezina Trophy winner and the celebration, and what a happy guy I was, if we recall from last episode about the whole thing. What did Fleury say? He said Andrei Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the world right now.
And Rod Brindamore was so complimentary of Andrei Vasilevsky. But here's my real reason for bringing it up. If Vasilevsky's 1, Carey Price is 2, knocking on 1 or challenging for number 1 at times, who would be 3? And I judge by the silence, as I just throw this at you, could be part of the reason why there's such quiet reaction to the question. But there's also the possibility that the reason why it was met with silence is there's no real hierarchy right now. Would it be based on Marc-Andre Fleury's year this year? Marc-Andre Fleury, if you're going to start one game, would it be Connor Hellebuck, who was 4th in Vezina Trophy voting and won the Vezina Trophy a year ago, but hasn't won a Stanley Cup? Odds are that he's going to be Team USA's goaltender at the Olympic Games. But like, who would? Or John Gibson? Sorry, I'll just preface that. But like, there's not
Thatcher Demko.
Clear Thatcher Demko. Okay.
No, listen. This is a great. What I love is we may have a different opinion of this once we see Andrei Vasilevsky behind Team Russia, a team that doesn't defend. Because here's the thing. We're 2 years removed from the Tampa Bay Lightning being knocked out in the first round. And it's not like it was Vasilevsky's fault. And it's interesting, Hutch, because you asked what round, and you quickly went to, I realized you were going with Carey being rested early in the playoffs, and you might pick him. But
just raising the question, not saying I would necessarily.
No, but yeah. But my mind
say
went,
the same thing about Fleury.
Well, my mind went to Vasilevsky. Yeah, Fleury, the first 4 games of the playoffs was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Only reason they get past Mini. But my mind went to Vasilevsky because I think he's been at his shakiest in playoffs over the course of his career in the first round, and then he just builds and gets better. But the first round against Columbus, when they were a team that was loose defensively, as good as he was in a year that he won the Vezina Trophy and was full value for it, they don't get out of the first round. Tampa since then has become an elite defensive team. So let's see what this all looks like when they're behind their respective national programs. And, does Russia ever figure out how to defend at that level? And if not, is Andrei, as the best goalie in the world, enough to overcome that? Whereas Carey's got the Olympic gold medals behind teams that batten down. He's got the gold medal behind the team that absolutely batten down the hatches with all that talent, played shutdown hockey for Mike Babcock. So at the end of the day, goaltending never exists in a vacuum, and we judge them, but with those great defensive teams in front of them, I'll be curious to see what they all look like with different defenses in front of them at the Olympics.
Not just the defenses, but I don't even know how we'd ever delve into this, but maybe we bring our buddy Pete on or something. But what's the psychological piece to all of this? Because Carey knows he's got to let in 2 or fewer, or they're not winning the game. And Vasi knows he's got that offense. It's great that they're playing better defensive hockey, but they've got the tools to help him if he makes a mistake. And I don't think we could discount that. And I think, Woody, you had a great example bringing up the Olympics. It'll be fascinating to see what happens there.
Here's an exercise for you tomorrow when you're out on the surfboard. And Hutch, you're a dad and you're carrying the weight of in goal. You're the only one that's not out and about doing fun stuff. So you can sit in the office and curse us and do the same exercise.
I'm having fun right now.
Okay.
The day we release this, I'm at a junior tryout. It's going really well too.
So as you're sitting there at the junior tryout and Woody's on the surfboard and I'm on an airplane traveling halfway around the world.
Yeah, you're the one who's miserable right now.
Here's the exercise. Yes, you're right. Down the middle seat.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Woody was beside you, then you'd really be miserable. He'd be whining about the eye covers. They're letting some light leak in so he can't sleep well enough. And
listen,
they don't have the right brand of bottled water. And how come this towel isn't heated well enough for me?
You guys were making jokes earlier about sharks and whatever. We developed, after a couple of close encounters in Hawaii, a rule amongst the kids when we were snorkeling. If possible, always keep an overweight tourist between you and the open ocean. Now I'm wishing Darren's going to get that same guy sitting next to him on either side of the middle seat.
You just wish I was swimming with you then.
No, you look good, man. You look really good.
Thanks, pal.
You don't qualify at all for that. I'm not sure you ever did, but your self-deprecation is appreciated for the comment. By the way, instead of the eye mask, I'm wearing my Sensorina headset.
There you go.
Just to be that person.
Do they make you put that away when the attendants tell you have to put your electronic devices away?
But when they do meal service and I'm stopping pucks, it gets a little messy.
How about when the big guy next to you in that middle seat starts snoring? It's like, boom, blocker save. Sorry about that. I'm just doing my elbow shrug saves right now. Little chicken wing there, buddy.
Darren, you have to do it, and you have to get somebody in the seat in front of you to film this. It would be priceless.
Somewhere over the Pacific.
It would be so good.
With my Sensorina headset. So here's the exercise. I want you to pick the game one starters for the various federations for the Beijing Olympics. Or we can just do it as who plays the most games for each federation, like who would be their number one goaltender. Some teams will switch, and some teams, depending on competition, won't start their number one, depending on what kind of format they go with. Some teams end up changing, like Canada has on a couple of different occasions at the Olympic Games, switching out the goaltenders. But who ends up being Russia's number one guy? Who ends up being Canada? Well, Bobrovsky. I know he didn't play well in the playoffs and hasn't had great 2 years, but he's a two-time Vezina Trophy winner. Like he's
also been really loyal to Russia and gone back to tournaments, and that holds a lot of weight with them.
Mm-hmm,
Bobrovsky, who's Canada's starter, who is Sweden's starter. Like let's go. There's the exercise for you. For all the federations. Do
we get to do homework, or are you making us do this now?
No. Homework. It's homework. Yeah.
Well, thanks for ruining the vacation, Darren.
So on the next episode, we can do Olympic starters while Darren is at the Olympics.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. See
so
how that all comes together?
Olympic water polo starter goaltenders.
I'm telling you, Olympic water polo goaltenders. I don't know how they do it. It's like they're standing on a little shelf and they just come flying out of the water.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Congratulations to Dylan Ferguson, your buddy, a good buddy of In Goal, with the Kelly Cup victory. And that was impressive. A 4-game win for Fort Wayne Comets with a K, and Ben Boudreau, a cool little story as the head coach of the Fort Wayne Comets. So, Hutch, that's great for Dylan Ferguson coming through a difficult year for all goaltenders, and especially when you get into the American Hockey League and the ECHL and trying to balance schedules and playing time. And we know that playing time was hard to get for most goaltenders. He comes through with a ring.
Yeah, really excited for Fergie, and I would like to say, now that it's Friday, that I really enjoyed catching up with him yesterday when he made it back to Victoria. but we're not sure when exactly he's coming up. I should have had Siri do that for me. Fergie does train up here every summer, and we've already spoken about spending some time on the ice. Really looking forward to congratulating him on that fantastic victory. It's let's hope it's another step as he can make another step in his career, showing you can pull off the win in the championship game. Obviously, he should hold a lot of weight with with his team next year.
Boy, Vegas is kind of stacked when it comes to goaltending between the American League, the ECHL, and how'd they do in the NHL this year? Pretty darn good.
Little Vezina trophy there, little AHL goaltender of the year for Logan Thompson. Make sure you go back and check out that interview we had with him. That was one of our, well, they're all great right there and they're all good episodes, but I really enjoyed that one. And then Fergie, we'll have to get him on. But also, you mentioned Ben Boudreau, of course, the son of Bruce Boudreau, who also won in the ECHL in 1999, I believe, as a head coach. And a little shout out, they don't have a dedicated goalie coach down there. So Ben is managing everything on his own in terms of being a head coach in the ECHL. But I do know that another friend of the program, Freddie Brathwaite, has been in communication as the Vegas Golden Knights development coach, and obviously Fort Wayne with the affiliation there. Been in touch with the coach and with the goaltender a little bit, and played a bit of a role there too. So congratulations to everyone, and you're right there. And let's the heck of a depth chart for the Golden Knights right now.
Logjam.
Jennings Trophy, Vezina Trophy. I apologize, but I don't know the name of the American Hockey League trophy. But
Baz Bastian.
Thank you very much for top goaltender in the American Hockey League, and now a championship for the ECHL. Awesome stuff on that front. And one of the Jennings Trophy recipients, Robin Leonard, uses the Warrior Ritual Stick. And today in our gear segment, we are going to chat about the Ritual V2 stick as we head over to the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and join Cam with Woody talking about this new release.
Welcome back to Goalie Utopia. You already saw Cam over in the shooting room testing out the new Warrior stick. We've got a whole line, 4 new sticks in the series. Cam, it's the one you were ripping shots with, although given your muffin status as a shooter, I'm not sure ripping is the way to go. Well, don't chirp me. We got the film. What's new? What's changed? Why am I buying this one?
Why are you trying to escape? Why are you trying to escape already before?
Like, honestly, you say, why I'm buying this one? Like, I gotta say, from an aesthetic standpoint, she's pretty sharp. That would, not that we buy equipment just because of how it looks, but some of us are a little more fashion conscious.
That never happens when it comes to goalie. We never buy equipment on how it looks.
Well, I mean, I never know. But I'm a little more fashion conscious. You come out in the same outfit every single week. I'm mixing it up all the time. Trying to look
mandated Hockey Shop uniform.
Little vintage goalie lid today. Little love to our friends over at Vintage Goalie. Does such a good job. On to the Warrior Twig. Walk me through first off, what is it called? Because these things get confusing to me. I'm a simple guy with not a lot of brain cells left.
Warrior V2 Pro Plus. Taking over for the Warrior V1 line. Top end stick. What's changed? What's remained the same? Which is a lot of important things here. Again, great call on the start of it. The graphic here, very, very nice blacked out kind of style of look with the Silver Warrior logos.
That blade, I wouldn't even want to throw tape on that. It's so pretty.
It's so shiny.
It's beautiful.
So part of the reasoning for this new kind of style of graphic, though, is to call out the carbon weave and how they've layered it and what it is. So they've kind of changed the way the nomenclature is of the stick. They call it a Minimus Carbon 25. So basically what's happening here is that what that's calling out is actually how they layer the carbon in the tighter weaves, for example. So the bigger blocks here is comparison to when you see the step down, they'll see a little bit tighter. Again, these guys, very strong, rigid. The stick itself has more of a mid-kick flex to it. You're still featuring their Vibex technology. So a stick that's already kind of led the way in vibration dampening continues with that same style of vibration dampening. Vibex really does make a difference you don't know unless you try it. And one of these ones is like definitely recommended. Just
we're going back to our days, like reviewing the original back at the original in goal and reviewing the original Ritual line. One of the things that was at a time when composite sticks didn't feel good. There were a lot of vibrations, and I remember talking to the people involved about the studies they were doing and how they had actually inserted this vibration system that, they tested the wavelengths that we feel and put materials in there to specifically eliminate those wavelengths. So they've been ahead of the curve in terms of feel for a composite stick, and that continues in the new line.
One of the nice features that still carries over too, that I quite liked as well, is the slide grip. What that is, basically raised rails on the actual shaft of the stick itself. Hard to see unless you do an up-close shot, so we can see that a little bit in our extra footage. But really, for throwing that poke check, it allows that glove to slip very, very easily along the shaft of the stick. Great overall feel. Great price point at the pro end. But it's par for the course when you're getting up into a stick of this kind of quality.
Okay, so you talked about the Minimus carbine, you talked about the mid flex point. I mean, we have different flex points in terms of where a stick flexes, but when you talked about that carbon being stronger and stiffer, is this a more, we know where it kicks. Is this an easier kick, a more flexible stick? Or I think a CCM, like E-Flex is their one that really bows, and the axis is a lot more rigid. Where does this fall in?
Correct. So if you want to kind of make that comparison, if you're looking for more of that more flexible stick that kicks a little bit more, they consider the M series the more flexible of the options, with a lower kick point on the M series stick, really designed to get that bow and flex so closer to that E-Flex. So this would be more of that axis style in terms of a stiffer stick.
It's still got good flex. It's just like you're not bowing this like a Brett Hall 1T.
That is correct.
And all the people watching are like, who's Brett Hall? That's right, I'm old.
So as we trickle down the lines, a couple quick things that remain the same. 3 different curve options. So you'll still have your wedge, your twist, and your mid curve, which carry over. So you'll see the name nomenclature drop because they used to be labeled Quick, Mrazek, and Bishop for the twist. Your curve comparison is your twist is the same as a Bauer PP31. Your wedge curve is very similar to the Carey Price curve, for example, that you find in CCM. And then this quick curve, very similar to the Sherwood P41. So some quick comparables and some other brands transfer all the way throughout the line. Let's look at the next price point.
Hold on. Twist and wedge. Like, it's 40 degrees out right now. I like that.
And you're wearing a sweater, so maybe
again with the brain
couple
cells.
Less layers.
Again with the brain cells, but fashion over function, folks. That sounds like a nice, cool summer drink right about now. I'd like a little twist and a wedge. Okay.
Back to Warrior 6 here.
Okay, next price point down. That's the Ritual V2 Pro Plus that we just saw. This is just the Pro.
Yes.
So your price drop, you're in a $249 range on this stick.
Correct.
I'm seeing some of the exact same slide grip. I love the feel, still strong graphics. I like the grip that they've got here. I like how it continues all the way up. But we notice a difference, as we talked about, in terms of when we see the carbon here, those patterns are a lot tighter. How is that going to play and feel?
That's correct. So Minimus Carbon's 12 with this one. What you're going to experience and you're going to feel, like if you are familiar with the original CR1, we'll keep that stick down. Or last year's V1 Pro, identical level stick. That's why the price point hasn't changed. You're getting that updated graphic. Basically, this is one of those situations, they had a working formula. It works. Don't mess it up. That's why you're seeing a lot of the same features with this stick, just that updated graphic.
Okay. So, next, continue down the line. Again, what you see with the Warriors composite stick lines is as you drop price points, your materials change, some of your properties change. This one, we're into the V2 E plus, upside down, it looked like a 3. Again, brain cells. It's hot out. I'm not that bright to start with. I can feel the similar grip, maybe not quite the same in terms of around the palm of the hand, but it still has those rails that you talked about all the way up.
Correct.
I'm not seeing it's painted over, so I don't see what's underneath. You tell me what's underneath and how's it going to flex. How's it going to play in comparison?
So a little bit stiffer, a little bit more rigid stick because of you're using more of a standard carbon layering. They still are featuring their Matiss carbon, but it counts a little bit lower, which means that the stick itself is going to be a little bit heavier. In theory, if you're looking for that kind of price point level stick, especially if you're chewing through sticks quite a bit, we're hitting a $190 price point with this one. Again, a little bit more price conscious goalie looking for something that, lots of pucks are hitting them. They need a bit more practice. They're not as concerned with the lightest weight stick that they could possibly get their hands on. That's a great option. It does come in a black graphic as well, which does show off the carbon layering as well. However, with this one, it's just a white look. So we decided to switch it up here as we were showing off some of these models.
Matiss carbon. That's the V2 B plus, and that's $189 as a price point stick. And now we get into the $129 real bargain stick. And again, so we've got a little bit of tackiness on the grip, but not the sort of textured,
correct,
like a little stickiness, but not the same texture. We don't have the slide rail. We just got a nice, simple looking, quite attractive still carbon stick. Still got a little bit of flex in it. Sometimes with these ones, I can find that the cheaper ones, they are heavier, but they can be more durable even. Is that what we find in this one?
I shy away from saying the word durability as which one's better. That said, great price point, coming in at $130. You're still getting Vibex, which is fantastic, but it's more of your standard composite stick. Not too much exciting. The name callouts are there. Vibex is still there. Slide grip, not pronounced the same way that you do find it on the other three price points. That said, again, when shopping at this price point, not as concerned for some of those fancy things. I want a stick that's going to last and it's going to be durable. That's what you're going to have here. I said it, even though I wasn't supposed to. I tend to shy away from the word durability. I caught myself.
Great. See?
Great.
And this might be a perfect warm-up stick. The guys like to make fun of me for the warm-up sticks, but
so there is some truth behind this. Again, starting out your warm-up with, one of those lower price point sticks, getting a chance to make sure that this is the one that gets beat the crap out of in warm-ups, and then you take out your game stick for when you're ready to perform.
It doesn't really apply to me because the truth is they just shoot at my head in warm-ups, my teammates. Thanks, guys. Way to go. But every once in a while they put it along the ice, and it's nice not to blow out your game stick. The other thing is when your game stick's a little lighter, go through the warm-ups with the heavier stick, get a lighter one, feels a little lighter. Everybody's just laughing at me right now because they think that's absurd. But Hutch, Millard, laugh away. So we got these new ones.
Let's bring it all back here to the Warrior thing again. So we still got some of last year's models. The V1 series on sale. You can check them out at thehockeyshop.com. Or you can give me a call here at 604-589-8299.
I saw when we came in and I was looking for you and I couldn't find you. Like, you got a whole separate rack. And I'm guessing, especially right now, like we're cup final right now, Carey Price using that stick. I'm guessing they're not going to last. So really good sale prices on the Warrior V1 line now that they've got the new V2. I don't want to say, like, is blowout a word I should use?
We're getting pretty close to that.
So make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com. If you got any questions about lie, curve, all those things, Cam, where can they get a hold of you?
604-589-8299. So I already said that one, but you can give me at 1-800-567-7790.
The beauty about the Warrior stuff goes across the border. Not everything does. So not only are you getting a discount because the V1 is on sale, if you're coming from the States, you're getting that exchange rate, which slipped a little, but still solid around 1.2. So like you're going to end up getting like 40% off if you're buying this one from the US. Make sure you contact Cam. Check out what's left in the inventory from their Warrior V1 line. Top to bottom, it's all on sale at thehockeyshop.com.
I think Cam's just trying to sell more sticks. I'm just going to say it right now. Cam's just trying to sell more sticks as a way to feed your ego, Woody. I think there's merit to a warm-up stick. I do. But, and when we make fun of you, I think there's merit to it if you're taking a 25-minute warm-up. In men's league, you're taking 6 shots. 3 of them come at the same time. And it
2 of them are in the head.
Yeah. So the idea of having a warm-up stick in men's league is depleted a little bit. But when it comes to high-level U13, 14 through junior, I think there's some merit to it.
Well, and as Cam said, practice stick, right? Don't, let's be honest, some of these twigs are getting into the $300 range, 300 plus. If that's what you're got and that's how you're rolling, the last thing you want is, your teammate snapping it in half with a shot. You'd prefer to save that for a little game action. So some good options there. And I know Cam didn't want to say it, but we've talked about this before. The higher price point sticks, you get into the fancier carbon, the better weaves, the lighter material that's going to have more flex, still be durable, but and be lighter. Sometimes the lower price point sticks, it's not as fancy, it is heavier, but there's a durability there too. They weigh a little more, there's a little more substance to them, and they can last a little longer. So ideal for that practice stick when you're going to, if you're going to take a couple hundred shots in practice, maybe not the warm up for 6 shots at the head, Darren. You're right. I'll grant you that, but I'm still going to use it. But yeah, for sure. Practice stick. There's an idea.
I would love to have Cam sit down as he, each time he tells us about last year's top of the line model going on sale and what an awesome deal it is. I would love to have Cam compare sort of the second tier stick this year to the top tier stick last year, or how far back do we have to go before this year's second tier model is every bit as good, if not better, than the top of the line model? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? The technology.
Oh, okay. Now I understand what I was trying to follow the shells there.
Yeah.
And under the half coconut.
It works in my brain.
And to see, but now I get what you mean. I think you could do that with every piece of equipment.
Well, and the reason it came up is we actually, the gear segments, as you know, are published over on YouTube. They're done in video. There's a little bit more detail sometimes there. And we had somebody leave a comment saying, what's a better deal, the Bauer 1X or the Bauer 3X pads? And we don't need to go down that road right now. And immediately I thought to myself, well, of course it must be the 3X. It's the newer one. But then I wasn't really sure how to answer that in great detail because, of course, the 3X is now the second tier model, but the 1X was the top of the line at the time. I think with all gear, it would be a fascinating thing because these companies are just doing such incredible work with the technology now.
It's funny because when you talked about that generation skipping thing, like to me, that 3X is a perfect example because that pad has everything but the Core-Tech skin and the Core-Tech, the sort of outer layer. And so other than that, it pretty much compares to a pro level pad of almost anything that doesn't have that property. So it is a really good question. It's a fascinating discussion. I will point out that I believe Cam said, think it might have been that second price point model in that interview we just did. Really no change. Like it's just a graphic update, but it's essentially the same stick at one of those price point models from the V1 to the V2. And so, which even makes it more important to go get whatever's left of that V1 version right now because it's cheaper. It's 30% off.
You didn't say whether you were actually going to do what Hutch asked.
I rarely do what Hutch asks.
I'll ask Cam.
Yeah, you just can ask Cam yourself, Hutch.
Yeah, that's right. Cam and I will just do our own sort of under the radar gear segment. Cam and I are launching a YouTube channel just to fight with Woody.
What Woody didn't ask, or what Woody refused to ask.
There you go. Or what Cam couldn't get in because Woody was talking so much.
You just think about our viewership would go up if we just had episodes where people didn't have to look at my hair.
My wife saw your hair the other day. She's like, "What's going on there?"
It's almost as much hair as Friedman's got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Elliot's.
There's way more salad up top here than what Elliot's rocking.
Yeah. Elliot though is doing it intentionally. I think what Woody's doing is just like organic.
He's just getting ready for Tofino. I mean, he was getting ready for Tofino, and now he fits in perfectly this week.
Woody, are you wearing a cap, bathing cap out there on the surfboard?
No, I mean, we have wet. It's cold as. But
do you have are you wearing a hood?
I don't wear a hood. I usually like to go.
Woody's
I like to let it flow. No booties on the feet either. Full 4-3
You don't
wetsuit.
wear booties?
No, I can't feel the board on my feet. Like I can't do it. I'm not good enough to wear booties. I need to sort of have a little bit of feel.
Yeah, I wear booties. all
you
day.
strike me as a booty guy.
Yeah, total booty. I wear mittens too. They got that wool gets a little soggy immediately. But the strings keep it like I pipe it right through the wetsuit, and the strings on the mittens keep it nice and handy. Let's get into our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina VR. Loving wearing my Sensorina VR headset, Oculus headset on the plane over to the Tokyo Summer Olympics and working on my reaction time. It's awesome. Ted next to me has complained twice, and I'm told that if I spill his wine one more time, I could be out. But that's for episode number 128 as we come back. But this is a cool conversation, a cool journey. Brad Thiessen, I've known of Brad Thiessen for a long time, and that's the joy of the relationships that you guys have at In Goal with these athletes and these coaches. Is I didn't know his story, and it's fascinating, Woody.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this one, and as Hutch can tell us here, I didn't realize it when we were doing it. Like, obviously, he's a local guy, Aldergrove being our neck of the woods. And as you'll hear, he's a hockey shop guy, too. That's where he got his first set. We get into that in the interview. But, Hutch, there's some tie-ins between the origins of In Goal Magazine and Brad Thiessen. Like, this is sort of a first for us.
And I feel bad. I didn't know he was a local guy till your interview, Woody, because our connection goes way back to, this might even be before Woody joined the fold. I'm not sure. It was real close. We had a photographer for several years, Scott Slingsby, a fantastic photographer in Boston, who also happens to be a pilot. And I was going through some of his stuff because I knew we'd have some photo of Teese that we could use for the podcast, and discovered that he actually had been shooting him in his first season in the American League. And so it's just really fun that here we've been around so long now, guys, that we've got an athlete who's come in at the beginning of their pro career. They've evolved all the way through that professional career, and now here they are on the podcast talking about the transition into coaching. It still feels like we just got started, and here we were for an entire career.
And a 12-year pro career, right? Like the NHL portion, we talk about that. He had the 5 games with the Penguins in 11-12. Didn't get back to the National Hockey League, but he had a really good pro career and ended it just over a month ago, and now moving into the development side. And so, coming full circle, what's kind of going to be kind of neat this year as the border opens back up, and now the Vancouver Canucks are putting their affiliate in Abbotsford. He's going to get to come home at some point. I haven't looked at the schedule with the Cleveland Monsters as a goalie coach, come back to the Abbotsford Aldergrove area with the team. And I'm looking forward to being right there when they do, to sort of cover that and say hi in person, and everything comes full circle. I feel like this, I should be having this conversation well on the surfboard. I'm feeling very zen about the whole thing.
He'll have to make his return to the hockey shop, and you and Cam and Teese can sit down there and go over some gear.
And he won't believe it either, right? Because he's OG hockey shop back in the day when it was across the street on the other side. It was much smaller, still packed with goalie equipment, but in that sort of old school mom and pop manner, like where the pads were like lined up on the floor, like 6 rows deep. Now they got the wall displays. They got an entire level dedicated to goaltending. Before, it was a corner of the store. It was still the place to go in Vancouver, and that's where the origins are. But man, like I actually, you know what? We got to set that up, because just for him to see what it's like now would probably be a shocker.
And if he wanted to visit the old shop, he could just put on his Sensorina VR headset and take a trip down. Well, they probably don't have that, but it's my best segue over to talking about what's going on with Sensorina.
Well, I know you love exploring all the apps that are available. That's one of the cool things. You get your Sensorina, and you still get to dive into this whole world of VR, and there must be some real estate VR out there. Hey, it's summer, guys, and training changes a little bit in the summer. I know a lot of goaltenders are out there getting to camps, doing some private lessons. I hope many of you are out there playing baseball, golf, whatever it might be. Multi-sport still matters. But one of the best ways that you can train as a goaltender in the summer, all year long, is by trying Sensorina and the VR goaltending training. It is so realistic. We keep talking about how realistic it is, guys, how you feel like you're stepping onto the ice into a real rink facing real shots. But I think what we forget is it's not there to replace your on ice time. It's there to augment it. In many ways, it's replacing all those things we used to do off ice when we were looking for a way to train away from the rink. Bouncing tennis balls off the walls, juggling, all those neuro drills that we do, like the grids and so on. Like those are all something you can do inside Sense Arena today 1,000 times better. You're tracking real pucks from real shooters. They're doing diagnostics on your game, creating a training plan for you to help those areas of the game that need help. That is so far from bouncing a tennis ball off the wall outside the dressing room. Can't even begin to describe it, guys. So what an incredible tool it is for goaltenders. And just encourage people, if you haven't yet, give it a try. We don't recommend using it on the airplane as you're flying overseas. It's probably not safe for use there unless you're lucky enough to have the entire row to yourself. Otherwise, Sense Arena is your thing.
Yeah, Ted will give you the testimonial on that. My seatmate.
I want the video.
We bonded. We bonded in a special way where we both agreed that we'd never see each other again. That's we came to that conclusion. But I brought
Lasso, I really want the video.
I wanted to take it over because I knew I was going to have to do some quarantine, and it's perfect. It just it doesn't supplement ice or anything like that, but it also keeps you attached to the game. We love the game. So if you're going to the cottage for a week, your athlete can take it along with them and feel like they're not giving up a week's training or a week's dedication to the sport and the craft. So I think there's so many benefits to it. Woody,
I think we're gonna have to. There might just be some video coming back of some idiot with bad hair on the beach in Tofino, rocking his Sense Arena. I won't have to worry about hitting anyone.
You good enough to surf in it?
Yeah, not if we want it to come back in one piece or dry. Little tough to sort of paddle out with the VR headset on and keep it dry. I'll be honest there.
So how about along with the Olympic challenge, we each have a challenge this week. Who can get a photo in the craziest location using their Sense Arena?
Done.
I'm in.
Done.
I'm the only one who has to come up with a new one. You both have yours already, but I will.
Yeah, I'll be walking down the jetway.
I need Darren in the middle row, everybody else asleep, middle of the night, jumping up, screaming, "Did you see that save?"
Windmill. That's upsetting. So Brad Thiessen with us today on the Sense Arena VR feature interview. It's a marvelous discussion when you talk about athlete to coach, athlete and coach to now coach. It's a great discussion. The feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Pleased to be joined on the In Goal Radio podcast by Brad Thiessen, the Columbus Blue Jackets' new goaltending development director, goaltending development coach in the American Hockey League. That's the new title, but in some ways you've kind of been acting in that role for a while. It's funny, this just is coincidence. We recently had Jeff Glass on the podcast, and he unofficially had started doing a little bit of mentoring. You've been doing this for, I guess, since 2019, where you were playing. You just retired 3 or 4 weeks ago from your playing career, but you were already kind of working in a mentorship role and a coaching role with the Blue Jackets and their affiliate down in Cleveland. Can you walk us through how that started? And then I got a whole bunch of questions on how it worked.
Yeah, it was the brainchild of Bill Zito, who was our assistant GM in Columbus. He was the GM of Cleveland here. Now, obviously, with Florida, but 3 years ago, I had played half a season in Cleveland, had some knee issues, had to get cleaned up, and ended up missing about half that season there. And Bill came to me and was like, "Hey, we still think that you can play, but we got young kids coming along. What do you think about trying to do a player coach thing?" And I was on board. I mean, I didn't want to leave Cleveland. I wanted to be able to try and keep playing and to be able to see what the coaching world was like. I mean, it was kind of a win-win. Wasn't really sure what it looked like. I didn't know anybody who had that kind of role before, so we just kind of winged it at first, but we made it work. And 3 years later, It was funny talking to Sudsy and Jeff Glass over the summer last year. They kind of like thought about that same kind of role there for them in Anaheim and San Diego, and was able to kind of have someone else alongside me in that role this year in the league.
Now, did you have anyone you could lean on, or like you said, were you just kind of making it up as you go? Because I got to be honest, the last one I can think of that really embraced that or started in that dual role was probably Rolly Melanson.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anybody, especially in the goalie role. I mean, I think there's some guys in the East Coast League that have that player coach title who are maybe forwards or defensemen and kind of do that. But the first time I walked on the ice, had all my gear, had like the bucket of pucks with me, and just started working the guys through some drills, and we kind of all worked through it together. And my partners that first year were Matiss Kivlenieks and JF Berube, and they were super supportive of me as I can only imagine what it was like for them to see their goalie coach also fully suited up and right alongside them. So.
What about the dynamics in terms of you were still playing, you still got into a bunch of games in 2019? You went on a run late in the season and into the playoffs and played some great goal, kind of got the team into the playoffs. How did you find that balance between when you were a goalie and when you were out there as a goalie versus when you walked into the coach's room? Like, did you have to almost have two different personalities for those two different roles, or two different, like, did you have to turn one on and the other off? How did that work?
Yeah, it was, I had two rules almost that I kind of tried to live by. And I made it clear right at the beginning of the year with coaches and management, also my other goalie partners that, the guys that I was working with, those guys were, first and foremost, it was about them. It wasn't about me as a player anymore. It was about their journey, their opportunity. And they had to know that I had their back and that I wasn't going to be kind of going behind them and trying to fight for playing time or whatever. It was about them. So I think that kind of helped. There were times and kind of awkward times where maybe I was probably the guy that coaches or management wanted to play in order to maybe win games at a certain point. But I tried to really hold strong to that, because as soon as you start playing games while the other two are still healthy and able to play games, then it's kind of harder for me to have that trust factor with them when I'm trying to work on some video with them or watching things with them, and they're looking at me like, hey, you're stealing my ice time right now, why should I listen to you? So that was something that was important for me. And then on the playing side, I always tried to stay more towards the player group. Like I wanted to be a part of the team. I wanted to be one of the guys, so that if I did have to step in, as a goalie, you want to be with the group. You want to feel like you're really part of the guys, and also someone that they could trust, someone that is not just coming from somewhere else, that they knew that you were putting in the time and the effort, and were there to pick them up when they needed it. So I really tried to balance both sides, but I would say I tried to be part of the group as much as possible.
Now, did anything about you as a goaltender change as a result of having the different perspective as a coach? Like, was there any part of your game or how you thought about the game that, you're already, you had a 13-year pro career you recently retired from, so you're already like 9-10 years into it before you start doing this dual role. But was there anything that your eyes were open to differently once you started that sort of mentoring and coaching side that you translated on the ice?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think when you're on the ice in your gear and you're trying to show maybe different techniques that you're working on to these other kids, and talking about different things in the video that you're studying and watching, you kind of have to walk the walk too, because if you're asking them to do something, then you better be able to do it too. So to have that perspective and to be able to still be on the playing side of things while still coaching, I think helped my ability to coach and also ability to play. And then so that was something that helped me as a player. And then also my mentality as a player coach, your time is kind of coming to an end as a player. So any time that I did get a chance to play, it was just a real free feeling going out on the ice, because you could really enjoy those opportunities to play, because you knew those were kind of coming to the end, and you weren't going to get those opportunities much anymore. So just going on the ice and be able to have the opportunity to play games and practice and lace up your skates and put on the pads. Those were some of my best memories of these last 3 years, because it was just, there was no pressure. It was just a lot of fun.
The games, I mean, especially the position and goaltending, like it evolves so fast. Can you give us an example? I mean, the audience, everyone who's listening here is pretty much a puck stopper. So can you give us any examples of like a technique that, like you said, you were teaching to these goalies that was new for you, that you had to make sure you dialed in and were able to execute as well?
Yeah, I think something a lot that we worked on a lot over the last few years was just kind of like, those wide rush plays when you're trying to play an overlap or get into your reverse, and that just kind of that little footwork that it takes to be comfortable being outside your post, but also be able to kind of work back in when the time is right. So that's a real feel thing for a lot of guys. So for me too, like, I could go out and try and feel things out and see what worked, what didn't work, and then I could really talk to the guys, and we could kind of break it down as to, everyone's different as to how they want to play those situations. But here's some footwork, and here's some of the things that work and don't work, and I can kind of play around with it myself in those times.
You talked about having fun and enjoying those moments when you did get back in the net, maybe more so than earlier in your career. Do you? It's easy to say, like we hear that a lot, right? Like how important it is to just enjoy it. Do you think the perspective, like, can you translate that to some of these younger kids, or do they? Sometimes it's one of those things you got to go through to really know.
Yeah, that's the that's the thing. You'd like to be able to bottle that feeling up and be able to pass that on to these kids as they're kind of going through their journey. And something that I've thought about is to try and, how am I going to relay that to them, because it's such an important part. And you get lost in everything when you're young like that. And I know I was right there with them when I was first starting out, and you're in such a hurry to get to the NHL, and you're worried about comparing yourself to other guys around the league and where they're at and where you're not at, and it just takes away from, that enjoyment and that the reason that you play the game and why you started, and just the fun and the ability to go out there and use the abilities that you have. So that's something that I'll definitely be trying to relay to these kids as I start working with them, and hopefully some of my experiences can help them.
Well, you mentioned that joy when you started playing. Where did it start for you? You're from my neck of the woods, Aldergrove, here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. How'd you get started in goal? Where'd that passion get ignited for you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Aldergrove. Grew up on a turkey and chicken farm back there, and had two younger brothers, and the two of us and my dad would always be playing hockey in our basement. And actually, I never really got onto the ice probably until I was 6 or 7 years old, and I had one year where I kind of tried everything, and by that point, I mean, a lot of the kids are good skaters, and I was kind of behind. I was off on the side trying to just figure out how to stand up on these skates, and and then so after that first year, I kind of gravitated to the goal. I'm not sure, why I went there. I played at a few tournaments and games here and there when you were kind of rotate the goalie around, and I enjoyed it. I love just kind of not the pressure, but the goalie has a lot of impact on the outcome of the game. I like that feeling, and there's a lot of people in that neck of the woods in that area that kind of invested in me and in my goaltending as I kind of grew up, and Sean Murray and Pascal Valena and some of those guys who kind of taught me the real basics of goaltending, and just kind of formed me as I grew as a goaltender there.
And a couple of names we're familiar with, both Sean Murray and Pascal Valena here at InGoal. From there into where did it become something that, goaltending is what you were doing and enjoying and fell in love with, to something where, obviously into the BCHL and then Northeastern, at what point did this become something like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and let's give this a go?
Yeah, I mean, probably I'd say 13, 14 years old was when I, really wanted to invest, significant time and effort into seeing where it could go. Obviously, being in Aldergrove was a small AA association, so it wasn't, didn't feel like I was getting the exposure that I, maybe wanted at that time, but stuck it out there for my Pee Wee and Bantam years, and then was lucky enough to catch on with the Delta Ice Hawks playing junior B there as a 16-year-old, and then jump up to Penticton, and so things just kind of worked out as I tried to navigate my way through that minor hockey and youth hockey world that's kind of scary, and there's so much different pressures and outside influences, and try to just kind of keep my eyes on what I was doing, and not worry about who was watching or where I was going to be, and things kind of worked themselves out there.
And get the opportunity at Northeastern, 3 years there. Like, it looked like that last year in the BCHL, something clicked. Man, I know sometimes you can never judge looking at a hockey DB. Sometimes what happened before is a function of team play, especially in a different era. But it looked like something clicked that last year. You end up at Northeastern. Like, was there a point along there where there was something in your game or some element from a coach that changed the trajectory for you?
Yeah, I want to say after my first year in Penticton, going to the second year. My first year was the last year of the Penticton Panthers, so that was the last year of the old Panthers, and then the new the Bees regime as their the powerhouse that they are now. It was started back then when my first year, and started working with Kim Dillabaugh. I would go up and spend 3-4 days with him in the summertime up in Kelowna there, and just a lot of the things that he worked with me on. I was opened my eyes to even just my stance. Like, how is my stance when the puck's in different areas of the ice? Can I be elevated? My stick doesn't always have to be on the ice. Like, as a little guy, just like trying to present myself bigger and being able to time things and reading releases. And he was someone who really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of those things in my game, and that kind of helped me take off those second, third years of junior hockey and into college.
And in college, and Kim, obviously, for those that, I would think most of the people listening know, obviously the goaltending coach of the Philadelphia Flyers now, and has had quite a good career himself, moved on from those Kelowna days, into Northeastern, and 3 years there, decision to turn pro, you end up with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Walk us through that sort of transition and that rise, because the success there was pretty quick.
Yeah, you know what? My college recruiting process, I had, took 3 official visits, one to North Dakota, one to Clarkson, and one to Cornell, and ended up getting an offer from North Dakota. Cornell and Clarkson both had offers, and it was just a situation where I didn't, they were good opportunities and good schools, but it just didn't feel right to me. And as I was actually going to commit to Clarkson, and that day Northeastern called, and I had never even heard of Northeastern, didn't know it was in Boston, didn't know what a bean pot was, like didn't know anything. I remember talking to the coach, and he was like, "Hey, we won 3 games last year. We play in Hockey East. We need a goalie." And I looked it up online. It looked like a great place to be. I really wanted to study journalism when I was in school, so they had a good journalism program there, and so I was like, I'm in. I'm ready. I want to come. And so the next year, we were able to kind of be that freshman class that started to turn some things around at the school there. And by the third year, we were up to being ranked second, third in the country. And school was just an awesome atmosphere to play hockey at Matthews Arena and be in the Bean Pot final and make the NCAA tournament, and just to be a part of that kind of process as they were able to turn things around was really cool.
I'm sensing a bit of a trend here. You stick in Aldergrove, even though it wasn't a big minor hockey association. I'm guessing there were probably a lot of nights where you guys were as a goalie, you were seeing a ton of shots, and maybe bigger associations would have overwhelmed your team, or at least had a lot of, you weren't sitting back there seeing 5 or 6 a night. You go to Penticton. That program, as you said, that was right at the start of a powerhouse. You're in Northeastern as they become a school that, like you said, one you hadn't heard of to one that everybody knows about now. What is there some lessons as a goaltender there about picking a spot or sticking in a spot that, not always looking for the best team, because that might not be the best thing for your goaltending development? And how much, I feel it's like Brad Thiessen needs credit for the rise of all these programs, because you were there from the beginning in the most important position.
Well, I can't take credit for those, but it was, like you said, as a goalie, a lot of times it's an opportunity to play. My first year in Penticton, we were awful. But as a 17-year-old in the BCHL, I think I played 40, 45 games. So it was, I was out there every night learning kind of on the fly, and, was able to kind of translate and take that experience as I went through. And then same at Northeastern, it was an opportunity where as a freshman, I played, every game but one, I think it was, and just helping to, be a part of the program where I was getting a lot of opportunities, a lot of shots. And I don't want to say that as a goalie, you have to search for just the right place where you're going to play right away, because, there's a lot of times where, you need some time to develop. You need, someone to kind of invest in you and you're not ready for the game time. You need practice, you need development time. And, I was lucky enough to jump into some spots where I was able to play right away. But, as I went into pro, I was able to use those experiences to help me.
So after 3 years at Northeastern, as you said, there's the decision to turn pro. How tough was that? I mean, you weren't drafted in the NHL, but we've seen a lot of examples where goalies become quite a coveted asset coming out of more time to develop and mature in university, and then you're an unrestricted free agent. Like, how many teams were chasing you? What was that process like, and how'd you come to decide on the Penguins?
Yeah, it was a situation where I felt at Northeastern I had done what I wanted to do there. I think as a goalie, you kind of want to be able to be at the top of the level where you're at before you want to consider moving on. And I felt that Northeastern that year I'd done a lot of things where if I went back, I wasn't going to really improve on them. I think it was time to move on and see what was next to the next level. And as the year went on, there were a decent amount of teams that I was talking to, and was excited about the opportunity. And then we lost the game against Cornell in the first round of the NCAA playoffs, and I was ready to have the phone start ringing and see what the opportunities were and where I was going to go. And at the end of the day, there was only 2 or 3 where it was actual offers, and so for Pittsburgh to come in and give me the opportunity to be there, I just saw them as an organization where, yes, Marc-Andre Fleury was there, and he wasn't going anywhere, but it was a chance to jump into an organization where they really have a plan for their prospects and develop guys. You weren't just going to get thrown in and see what happens. So I valued that as a player and as a person going into an organization, and was excited for that opportunity.
What was that experience like that first year with the Penguins? Because obviously multiple levels. Played in the American Hockey League. Also spent some time in the ECHL. And at a time when you mentioned that they had a plan and they helped you. This is an era where a lot of teams didn't even have an American Hockey League goalie coach, let alone someone that could help you out in the ECHL. Now you're in that role as a development goalie guy. What were your experiences then? What have you learned from that you will bring to this new role now? Because times have changed, right? There's more. It feels like there's more resources. Did you have those when you made that jump? Because it's a big jump.
Yeah, for sure. And that was, I signed in April of 2009, and then was actually a part as a Black Ace with the Penguins as they went on the Stanley Cup run. So, I went right to the team and was able to kind of have a firsthand view of a team that was going to win the Stanley Cup. So, I was really fortunate and really lucky to be able to have that up close and personal right off of my college experience. So the next year coming in, I was sent down to Wilkes-Barre after training camp. It was myself and John Curry, and then Adam Burkle, who's now with Vaughn. So I think Berkey was hurt for the first month or so. So it was me and John Curry, and then after Berkey came back, I remember being called into coach. Todd Reardon was our head coach then, and he brought me in the office and told me that they were going to send me to Wheeling. And I remember just breaking down. I was in tears in his office and just like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is what I left college for. I'm going to play in, the East Coast League in Wheeling, West Virginia, and left that opportunity that I had to finish out a senior season in college. And so I remember getting in the car and starting to drive to Wheeling, and the player development, head of player development was Tom Fitzgerald, and he called me on my drive down and, kind of just told me that they weren't just going to put me down there and forget about me. Like they had a plan. They needed me to play games. They wanted me to learn the pro hockey. And my first game, Jason Botterill was at my first game in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And Gilles Meloche was the goalie coach at the time, and he would come down to Wheeling too. So, it took me, probably 3 to 4 weeks to kind of get over the fact that I was in the East Coast League. And, I probably wasted that time, but it was time that I needed to reevaluate and figure out, this was part of the plan, part of the process. And, I can definitely use that as I go into the role now with these kids. Cause, I was the same way, you want everything right away, and you did everything you could at the previous level. And in most cases you were at the top of your game in the previous level. So you figure you're just going to jump into it and do the same in the next one. sometimes it's a rude awakening, and definitely those experiences that I had back in the day and going to play in Wheeling can help me as I trying to relate to these kids now.
Well, just the value of a phone call on that drive, as hard as it would be. I mean, credit to the Penguins organization. I've heard stories the other way where guys do get sent down, even and some most recently where they never do see a goalie coach when they're ECHL. So that sounds like an organization that had its priorities right more than a decade ago. I got to ask, what's life as a ace, fresh out of college, on a run that ends with everyone hoisting the Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins? Like, what was that experience like? What's your fondest, or what's the memory that jumps out the most from being a part of that run?
Oh man, I remember just like being on the ice for practice and thinking I don't belong here. Just like Sidney Crosby and Malkin and Letang and these guys just ripping pucks by my ears and not having a sniff of making a save. Just like this is going to be a short-lived career. But as I kind of went along, just the whole team was just a great group of guys and really welcomed me in. Bill Guerin was there. He's such a presence in that locker room, and Hal Gill and Pascal Dupuis and some of these guys who are super welcoming to a kid just coming out of college. And Marc-Andre Fleury was just, I mean, just like you see today, he's just always in a good mood, always having a good time. And what I remember most was watching game 5. The series was tied 2-2 or in Detroit. Like he gives up 5 goals and gets pulled in the second period, and then comes back in game 6 like nothing happened, and puts on 2 performances that helped them win the Stanley Cup. So being able to see that firsthand, and then obviously being on the ice, in the locker room, on the plane, going to Mario Lemieux's house, just the whole festivities that followed with the the Stanley Cup involved was something that I'll never forget.
Welcome to the NHL, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty,
Yeah.
that's not a, hey, fresh out of college and here you go right into a cup run. Were you able, like, do you feel like it's easy to look back now, but in the moment, like you said, with Crosby and Malkin, and you're in there in net in practice and they're, hey, I've heard that conversation. I've had that conversation with Marc-Andre Fleury as he started to evolve his game years later, how hard it was to trust technical changes when it is Crosby and Malkin ripping it by you in practice. In that moment, were you able to, like, did any of those lessons hit home at the time, or you were just along for the ride and now in retrospect it's easy to look back?
Yeah, I think it was probably I would say I just learned like patience. I think like just reading the game, reading the shots, reading the releases, what these shooters think about, how they're willing to shoot from anywhere, where the spots are they're looking for, being up high and watching the game and watching Marc-Andre play, and just the athleticism that he played with, but the controlled athleticism, not using it to kind of take him out of position, but using it when he needs to, and kind of having that technical base and ability to scrap it when it's needed and the time calls for it. So those are some of the things that I took out of those couple months where I was along for that ride.
Okay, so it looks really easy from up there, doesn't it? This is why us journalists, that's why everybody's hard on goaltenders, because we watch it from up in the 500 level, and it looks really simple to identify all those reads and patterns. I forgot to ask you, you mentioned journalism. How far along did you get with, like, was that something you were at any point, the journey obviously went to pro hockey, but was journalism something you were seriously considering? And did taking those courses at Northeastern help at all in terms of dealing with us, managing the media, learning how to sort of exist in a world where sometimes we can define accurately or inaccurately where players and goalies fit in the hierarchy?
Yeah. Ever since I was a kid, like I was huge into sports broadcasting. Like, loved listening to sports talk radio and listening to the Canucks games on the radio, and also like Seattle Mariners games on the radio. And I always knew that it was something that I was passionate about. If hockey wasn't going to work out, that I wanted to do. Even when I was in junior in Penticton, I'd have I would say a column in the newspaper every couple of weeks that I would write a little blurb about something. And then in college it turned into a blog I wrote. It was called In the Crease with Tees, and so I had a little blog going there. And even here in Cleveland, I have had a few opportunities to do some color commentary on the radio and on the TV. So those are things that I enjoy doing, and who knows if that's something that I turn to again one day down the road. But it definitely helps when I'm talking to media or reading things, and kind of coming from knowing the perspectives that the writers or the journalists are coming from, and kind of trying to relate it to where you're at as an athlete or things like that. So something that I'm passionate about as well.
Careful there. We'll be putting you to work before you know it here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though too, growing up in Vancouver and listening to those names, like as soon as you start talking about Mariners games, I'm like Dave Niehaus, and I'm trying to think of the era. Was Jim Robson or John Shorthouse in that transition? Like we had there are a lot of great media.
It was really great. I mean, Jim Robson, Tom Larshai, and then John Shorthouse took over, and Jim Houston was part of it there, and Dave Niehaus and Rick Riz and all those guys in Seattle, and just some of the Mariners teams that were there during that time. Like it was Ichiro and all of the record-setting season that they had. They never could finish it off in the end, but it was always fun to listen to, and chance to go down to Seattle in the summertime and watch games.
Yeah, that's right up my alley right there. Grew up going down to the Kingdom. Wasn't quite as nice as what they got now, but going down to watch Griffey and Buhner and Randy Johnson in the Kingdom. So I can see with that influence why media would be attractive. I was attracted to the same type of announcers and the same voices because they're Hall of Famers, right? That's a great list. So welcome to the NHL. Out of college, straight into a Stanley Cup run. You get your welcome to the NHL moment as a goalie 2 years later. What do you remember? 5 appearances, 3-1 record in the 4 starts. What do you remember about your first stint in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I remember, I'd had a few call-ups, especially the year before. I had a call-up where I had a season that was pretty memorable and didn't end up getting in a game. And you start wondering, am I going to get that opportunity? Is that chance going to come? And to be honest, that year that I did get called up, I don't know if I deserved it or not. Like I had a good start to the season, but then that my focus kind of went away, and started comparing myself and wondering why am I not getting that opportunity? And you see other guys around the league that are starting to play games in NHL, and you start thinking I'm better than that, or I should be getting that opportunity as well. And so I think it was around February that Brent Johnson, who was the backup to Fleury at that time, got hurt, and I got my opportunity to come up, and it was a good 4 to 6 weeks run that I was able to be there. And they had back-to-back home games for the first weekend, and I knew that Fleury was going to play the first one. We were playing Tampa Bay, and then the next afternoon we were playing Columbus. And I remember Dan Bilesma walking down the hallway and just telling me, like, you're going to get your game tomorrow. That's your start. So being pretty excited about it. I had my dad, one of my brothers, and my then girlfriend or fiance, now wife, and my cousin out to the game. They all flew out and made the trip, and I remember being thankful that it was a 1 o'clock game, so I didn't have to wait around all day for a 7 o'clock and kind of let your mind get away from you. So I was able to get the game in early. Rick Nash scored on a breakaway, the first goal that I gave up in the NHL. So now I'm working with him here in Columbus. So that was pretty cool. But you step on the ice and start doing warm up, and it's just a surreal experience. Like you wonder how it happened, and that you're actually there, and all those dreams and all the work that you put in were worth it. So was able to win my first 3 games, and then my 4th one was up in Ottawa, and that one started off memorably because I mean, you can look it up on YouTube, I think, but there's a Canadian national anthem rendition that is memorable for that game. It was rather, I think it was long and memorable, and I remember smirking on the TV as it was going on. And then that started off a night that was night to forget. I think we lost 8-4. I knew we were playing the next day too, and I knew I was in for all of it, no matter what happened. And Alfredson and Spezza and those guys had a good night against me, so that was the last start. But it was a real good time and good memories.
So from there, couple more years with Wilkes-Barre, and 2013-14, I got Helsinki in front of me, but also time with Norfolk. And I know you spent some time in the Flames organization. Just walk me through those couple of years that ultimately end up leading you to Lake Erie and now Cleveland, and with that organization where you've been for the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, so after 4 years with Pittsburgh, I was, it was the first time I was going to be a free agent. I wanted to, try something new and see what else was out there. And got into free agency. And after that first week, like as you know, like goalie spots, there's not too many of them. And once they start getting snapped up, it's like, oh, you're looking around and wondering, where's the spot for you? There's nothing left. So kind of Europe was not even a thought on my mind at that point. And then all of a sudden it was, maybe this is something that we should look into. So I ended up getting the opportunity with HIFK in Helsinki. And I thought if I was going to go to Europe, Helsinki was a place that was, a big metropolis and a big city where you would, kind of see that experience and get that opportunity to go over there and play. So I went. I didn't handle it very well. I think if you're going to Europe, you have to have an open mind, and I think things are done differently because that's the way they do things, and that's the way they're used to doing things, and you're used to doing things your way, and when you're not willing to adapt or kind of be open-minded to some of those things, then you're going to struggle, especially as an import. You're expected right away to kind of be the difference maker, and I struggled right off the bat and wasn't ever able to kind of get my footing, and which is too bad because it was a really good spot, really good city, and something that I definitely don't regret going because it gave me an experience that I can maybe relate to other guys about too. So came back and Sudsy rescued me. He was a goalie coach in Norfolk there, and we had done some work in summer times before, and he needed a guy to go with John Gibson and have that older guy to pair with him. So that started my kind of mentorship journey and what kind of gave me jobs as I went forward there. So spent that rest of that year with Norfolk and John Gibson, and then a year with Calgary and the Flames, in Adirondack, and that was a tough year. It was for whatever reason it just wasn't the right mix of players and whatever, and just the joy in hockey was kind of taken that year, and I actually thought that was gonna be my last year and be done. The only problem was I didn't have my green card yet, and I was a Canadian. I was married to an American, and I needed to have one more year of employment so I could get my green card. So I knew I was going to just play for one more year and then see what happened. So I knew coming off that season I hadn't played very well. So I signed with Cleveland, knowing I was going to be back in the East Coast League in Cincinnati, and was going to give it one last shot and just have fun playing hockey and get my green card in the process and be done. And that was 6 years ago, and I kept playing after that. So
This is loaded with lessons, though, right? Like you had to live them the wrong way. You had to go through the pain of experiencing them as a life lesson, as a learning lesson. But I got to think all of these are going to serve you on the development and probably have already since you've been in this mentorship role and this coaching role for the past few years. Like, again, it sounds like you weren't playing thinking about your career anymore, and you had a 934 in the East Coast and a good year when you got called up to the AHL. Like, how do you now tell the guys, right? How do you tell the younger guys? How do you share this in a way that's going to resonate with them that like, hey, when you let go and stop worrying about the wrong things and just play, it's the easiest thing to say. You've lived it in multiple scenarios. And yet, how do you get young guys to embrace it? How do you get that philosophy across?
That's the trick. I mean, like you said, all these different experiences that I've had and places that I've been, and as a goalie coach now, like you can, have all the technical answers and be able to have all the different, catchy words and things like that. But I think for me as a coach now, the first thing that is important is the relatability factor and the ability to really earn these guys' trust, and that you've been there and you've been where they are at now, and you can relate to where they are and share experiences that you've gone through that maybe you had to fail at in order to succeed, and hopefully their failures are a little bit shorter and less painful than maybe what you had to go through, because you can relay those stories to them. So I'm excited to be able to be in that role now to help these guys in their journey, because I had my shot and I had my journey, and now it's time to help these kids in theirs.
Now, Finland, you said like it didn't go well, but there were lessons learned there, and you've got quite an international group of goaltenders coming through the Columbus system. You mentioned Kivlenieks. Daniel Tarasov is a goaltender who I got to watch at the World Juniors here in Vancouver and have heard nothing but incredible things about. Are there lessons there too? Like, do you have that, even if it was just a short period, did it give you a new appreciation for what these guys go through coming to a new culture, coming to a place where the practices are different, the timing is different, everything is different?
Yeah, 100%. Like even the last year and a half, we had Vinny Vavalainen here, who's from Finland. So just the fact that I was over there for 4 months just gives me that instant, relatability factor with him, because I know the rinks he's been in and how things work over there and how the hockey is played, and the challenges that he would have coming over here to try and play the game. So that instant relatability factor kind of helps build that trust right off the hop. And same with Daniel, like coming over here and getting used to the smaller ice surface and just the pace of practices and different things, and going into a new country without knowing the language or knowing anybody. And I think that's something that, as a North American going to Europe, they do a great job of, as soon as you step off the plane, like, here's a car, here's your cell phone, here's your apartment. Like they really make it so that you can try and just focus on hockey. And I think sometimes over here we get lost in the fact that we expect these guys to perform on Saturday night, and meanwhile there's all these other things that they're trying to struggle with going through just to live life in a new country. And something that I'm also excited about, just trying to help these guys as they transition into a completely different culture, different world over here compared to some of the things that they're used to back at home.
You also, especially in the first 8 years of your career, when you were moving from teams, teams, different voices, and again, maybe not a coach at every level throughout that process like we do have, or at least more so now. Were there lessons there about, how it is like sometimes you get a new coach and they want to change something or they want to try something new, finding that balance? And this is a question we ask a lot of guys, like finding that balance between showing that you're coachable and being willing to try new things, but having a trust in your own foundation and what works for you, and when to, I don't think push back's the right word, but when to stand up for your own game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not everyone has all the answers, so it's being able to kind of pick and choose from different coaches that you have, that you can oh, this works for me or this doesn't work for me. And as I work with our guys now, it's really, I think a video has a lot of value to it, just to be able to sit down with someone and talk about, like, where do you see on this play? How do you like to play this situation? What works for you here? Well, what do you think about trying this out? Or maybe they say, no, I prefer to do it this way. And okay, that's fine. Maybe down the road, you see some goals go in where they tried it their way, and it's maybe, okay, let's maybe see if we can work something else in, another tool into your toolbox here a different way. So, I definitely have had a lot of different coaches over, the 12 years of professional hockey that I've played with. And I've agreed with some and not agreed with some others. And you try and be coachable for sure, but be respectful and have that ability to trust your game and what works for you, and be able to pull different things from different people, because there's so many different guys out there that have so much to offer.
I was going to say, and some of the names from starting out with Pasco and Sean here, you mentioned Kim Dillabaugh, obviously Sudsy, now with Anaheim, Sudarshan Maharaj. I'm guessing, looking at the timelines and trying to match them up real quickly in my head, but you would have, like, Columbus Blue Jackets goaltending coach Manny Legacy is a guy that would have also been the coach for you down in the AHL at some points. I'm guessing would have crossed paths with Ian Clark as well. Like, that's a lot of names with a lot of great experiences and a lot of really respected guys that you've already had a chance to work with. Do you take pieces from each one? How does Brad Thiessen's philosophy fit in with all those other guys you've worked with?
Yeah, I'm real fortunate to have come across all those guys, like, be able to just pick the brain of all these different guys. And especially now, as I'm done playing and kind of starting this out, just so fortunate to be able to pick up the phone and call any one of them and just talk through different situations, or how you handle a young kid in a certain situation, or what would you do here, or how do you scout guys here. Just like I'm so fortunate to be able to have that. But it's true, like, there's so many guys who are so good at their jobs and their crafts and put so much time into it, and everyone has little things that they are kind of like specialized in and areas that they're really good at. I'm so thankful that I've been with Manny for the last 6 years, first as a coach here in Cleveland, and then as he moved up to Columbus, to be able to just go spend time with him in Michigan and be on the ice with him every day, and for him to have that real ability to blend the experience but also the teaching aspect of things. He's so good at being able to do that, and obviously Ian Clark and just the detail and the organization that he presents the game with. There's a lot to be taken from him as well. So there's so much wisdom, so much knowledge in the goaltending community, and I'm lucky enough to be able to tap into that with a phone call.
How much of this job now, I mean, and like you said, you've sort of been doing it already, but in a very unique way. How much of this is between the ears as much as between the pipes? Like, I think, as a writer, it's really easy for me to focus on the technical because it's what I see. But the more I get to have these conversations with guys like yourself who have been in the game for so long, the more I realize that, like, that's just one small piece. Like, where is it, like, do you have, like, is there a pie chart with different slices? How much of it is technical? How much, or is that the beauty of the position? It's different for every guy, and you have to figure out how those pieces come together.
Yeah, I think for every guy, it's going to be a little different. I think in each stage of their process, it's going to be different. Like sometimes maybe, one year, one certain time in their life, that's going to be real technical. And there's going to be some times where you really got to dig into their game and, maybe change some things about, the way they're doing things on the ice. But then there's going to be times where, they're struggling mentally, or they're going through some stuff off the ice, or just dealing with the pressures of playing pro hockey, and, seeing where they're at in their stage of life and their journey. So it's going to be really important just to kind of have a relationship with them, with your goalie, where you can really know, okay, no, I got to really dig into him right now in our relationship and build the trust and build some good habits off the ice and their mental side of things. And then other times there's going to be times to push on the ice where you're really hammering home the technical side of things. So I think that's it. The part I'm excited about is really being able to establish that relationship with guys where, you have the ability to know, what buttons to push at what times, and where they're struggling and what they need at that certain moment.
Okay, you mentioned Adam Burkholm. I promise I'm going to wrap up soon because I've taken up, as I usually do, more of your time. I'm kind of infamous for this. I apologize. Last questions. I have a couple. You mentioned Adam. I'm pretty sure the last picture, like, I've seen you in sort of newer generation Bauer gear. You mentioned Adam Burkholm, Vaughn. I'm not going to ask you to pick favorites in gear departments, but is that a part of the job? Is as a coach? Because I see some young goaltenders now that, some of them are geeks like us. I wear the label proudly. You're geeking out on the gear. I don't know if you're one of those guys, but some of them now, like, don't necessarily have a real understanding of how their equipment functions. Like, is that part of the education process? Were you a guy that had to figure out all those details and knew those details, and will that be part of the role moving forward?
Yeah, that's an area that I'll have to get a little better in, because I was the opposite of a goalie nerd. I was just like, this works, okay, good. Keep giving me that. I was always a Bauer guy right from the beginning. I remember, like, growing up on the farm and having to work enough so I could pay for my own gear. I remember the first set of gear was like the Bauer Reactor 6000 with like the big spoon blocker, and that was it was a proud moment when I could walk into the hockey shop and buy those.
I was gonna ask because I was thinking of this, like, okay, where would you have bought gear back then? Like, there weren't a lot of specialty stores for goaltending.
Yeah.
Or you're an OG hockey shop client.
Oh yeah, it was like walking into a candy store. There, you just kind of stare at all the walls and all the different pads, and it was I spent a lot of money at that place.
See, this is the best part of my job is I get to go there every week now and do the gear segment, staring at the walls at all the gear. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And listen, you said Seattle. I don't think you have to be Ichiro. Remember the stories of the bats in the humidor and storing them at the right temperature. But it just feels like sometimes sometimes for some of these kids, like, they can end up in gear that maybe doesn't function for their game.
Yeah.
And so I was curious where that fit into
you're
the
definitely
equation.
right, and it's something that it's an important piece of these kids, and a lot of them are super into their gear and very in tune with what works and what doesn't work, and sometimes too in tune. And I was the guy that just I remember Todd Brown was the Bauer rep back in the day, and just kept telling him to send me the same stuff. And then I started working with Henry Breslin, and I remember when they stopped making the reactor pad with the knee roll, and I was like, what am I going to do here? And I had to switch into the vapor, and he got me to buy into wearing those. So I'll have to expand my knowledge on a lot of these pads, and just how the gear works and functions to fit each guy the way that it needs to.
Okay, and this really is the last one, but we'll leave it on this one. Dad, I see the pictures behind you. Got 3 boys. Are they going to be goalies? Is that okay with that if they're a goalie? Did you have any resistance when you chose that?
I didn't have any resistance to it. And my oldest, I think right now he's into scoring goals, so I'm completely happy with that. Then the one behind him, there's questions. We'll see. We'll see where he leads. I think he's waffling right now, so we'll see. He's got time to choose.
Well, with all the money you spent at the hockey shop, you know how expensive it can be. But the good news is you've got some connections.
That's right. I'll have to use those.
All right, Brad. Hey, really enjoyed this conversation. Congratulations on the new job. Congratulations on the career. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And I'm telling you, that journalism thing, you may hear from us sooner rather than later.
I appreciate you having me on. It's I love the content that you guys put out, and it's an honor to be on the podcast with you guys. So thank you.
Okay, enjoy. All the best moving forward with the Blue Jackets.
Thanks, Kevin.
Now, you didn't plan the interview around the in-goal relationship with Source for Sports and the hockey shop, but that's really cool. Thiessen's experience with the hockey shop
just dawned on me as I started asking him about gear, like, because I'm not kidding. There really was only one place for goaltending, if you're into goaltending, that really had that level of sort of not just inventory but expertise as well, and that's again still to the day, right? We don't go there just because of the great selection. We go there because Cam and his staff actually play the position, have a passion for it that we share, and make sure they understand the equipment that's going to help you play it better. So kind of cool to hear that story from Brad and sort of tie it all in. And you know what? We were talking earlier. I piped up about a Baz Bastian and American Hockey League Goaltender of the Year award for Logan Thompson. I didn't even realize this. Shows you what a great interviewer I am. Went through that whole interview and neglected to mention that Brad won it in 2010, 2011 with Wilkes-Barre.
Outstanding. So it's got his name on the American Hockey League Top Goaltender Award. That is neat and shouldn't be just pushed to the side. Right. One other story that I forgot to mention, if you want to play catch up, Robin Lehner and the Warrior sticks, and like he used to use an off the rack ritual stick.
Yeah, when he switched over, it was during his time in Chicago, and now I'm kicking myself because I'm not sure I saved the video because there were some questions about whether they wanted us to use it. But one of the equipment guys there down in the tunnel, when we were still allowed down in the tunnel, had the spray can out and a template, like a Warrior Lehner template. And he was spray painting Robin Lehner's stick for that night because Robin basically had a stock Ben Bishop curve off the rack. I mean, I'm sure they didn't buy it off the rack. They ordered a bunch of them, but he was playing with basically a stock Warrior stick. And to the point where he wasn't getting custom colors yet. He didn't have that in. He was just, so the equipment manager, and it's killing me that I can't remember his name because it's just another example of how above and beyond they go, was spending all this time out in the hallway with a couple different cans of spray paint and letter templates to make sure that Robin Lehner's Warrior stick with the Chicago Blackhawks matched the rest of his Great Brian setup with the Chicago Blackhawks. And I thought that was pretty cool example of just how hard those guys work, but also, yeah, probably a little bit telling that here's a National Hockey League goaltender that just found something he liked and, didn't need to spec the crap out of it with custom options. He found something he liked and he went with it.
Robin's so amazing. He will use that stock stick that's not custom. He grabs gear, gets it in the morning, wears it in a game that night. It's just so fascinating how he just rolls with it and has learned to roll with it. That's awesome. Have fun the rest of the vacation out there on the surfboard. Please check in with us every day, either by text or direct message or by posting something. Just let us know that you are safe out there on the water. I would like to have you sitting on the surfboard with your feet dangling in the water with that Oculus headset, Sensorina headset on, even if it's just posing for a picture, and you're only in 2 feet of water. I think it would be a good picture, but don't get sand in it or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to replace my headset and my paddles for me. If my reason for needing that is I fell in the water, but we'll see what we can do, Darren. There are some spectacular. There's a cliff, there's a little bluff, and a sunset melting into the Pacific Ocean. We may be able to talk one of my daughters into bringing a camera up while I'm a little bit worried, though, to be honest with you, because the edge of that cliff and the fall off, like if I decide to come out and challenge, just because, like, you get into it, you punch a wall, you hurt your hand. That's still healing on the hand there. Like, what if I take a step out and the next thing you know, I'm over the cliff? Like, that could be a problem.
We've seen your daughter's artwork, which is absolutely unbelievable. We've heard about the spray paint now for Robin Lehner. I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I think she could probably make you a virtual reality headset that you could safely wear out onto the water.
I'm on it.
So it's on your daughter to come up with her own model of an Oculus just for you, so you're nice and safe.
Sweetie, I'm going surfing. You spend the day on arts and crafts.
Exactly.
I know that you guys have both seen it, but the 1986, one of the great visuals from that Montreal Canadiens run to the Stanley Cup with Patrick Roy's rookie year was a save at Madison Square Garden where he made a windmill glove stop, and he ended up inside the face-off circle, fully inside the face-off circle, which we don't encourage anybody to try that these days. I have always tried to figure out where that puck was going. If he made a glove save like that, it is probably going to end up in the corner. But Woody, don't try and challenge like that, or else you'll end up way out there. Or Hutch, maybe we want him to do that.
I'm speechless. Yes, we do. We do. I'd love to see the Patty windmill from the water in Tofino. It would be spectacular.
Hey, which beach do you go to? Just curious.
We stay at a place on Cox Bay, and I don't know if I say this out loud, but the better break is right around the corner on Rosie Bay. So you gotta sort of cut across a little path and go over there. But Cox Bay is packed, and it's amazing breaks and great beach, and it's a great place to learn too. It's perfect for that. But you can go over and catch a little bit of a better break without having to deal with hundreds of other people on the other side of the point.
Oh, the paparazzi are going to be out there looking for Woody's autograph this week now.
You guys make jokes. Guess who was there 2 years ago when we were there surfing? Our Prime Minister.
Oh, yes.
Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? We were actually on the beach, and him and his, he was out surfing at, that's where they go, and they were at Cox Bay surfing, and we actually saw him, and it was like, holy crap.
Keep your shirt on, okay?
It makes him one of the coolest. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, when I come off the beach in the wetsuit stays on till I get back and hose myself down. I'm not like rolling it down and like tarps off walking up the beach like our Prime Minister, because I don't work out as much as him, frankly. Kind of cool that the leader of the country goes and surfs. Like, I'm in. It's got my vote.
I just can't wait till you get the photo of him in the Oculus.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Trudeau. We have a running thing here at InGoal. We need the best picture. I would like you to wear this headset out into the ocean as you go for a surf.
Seems like a pretty chill dude. I think you might do it.
Yeah, just call him JT.
Exactly.
Then, he'll answer for sure. That's as close as we'll get to politics or any type of political opinion on this program. But we love talking goaltending, and we'll definitely share all of our viewpoints. And remember the homework. Who will be the goaltender of record for the various federations in Beijing should the National Hockey League go? Lots to discuss there, and it may take a little bit as you go through it. Canada, Sweden, Russia,
China. Do they get an entry? I'm going to text Dusty Emu right now and get the inside track on that.
Let's go to it. Stay safe to the two of you. And stay safe to everybody listening, and we'll chat with you again from points unknown at this stage of the recording. We don't know where we'll all be next week, but appreciate it listening, and congratulations to the 2021 Stanley Cup champions, Siri.
The Tampa Bay Lightning.